Welcome to Live from Med City, the online video digest of all things arts and entertainment in Rochester, Minnesota. Tonight we come to you from the historic Chateau Theatre in downtown Rochester, Minnesota's Heart of the City district for a special audience-less performance from the Minneapolis-based classical duo OboeBass. Presented by Rochester Civic Music, a department of Rochester City Government. This activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a Minnesota State Arts Board Operating Support Grant, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
So, in case you were wondering, that's what an oboe-bass duo sounds like. I am Canzone Vekione, and I play the oboe.
And I am Rolf Erdahl, and I play the bass.
And we call ourselves OboeBass. We are so thankful to the city of Rochester. We're so happy to be here live from Med City at the historic and beautiful Chateau Theatre for an evening of oboe-bass music. Now, this might seem like an unusual combination to you, these two instruments, but we're not sure why, because we really think these two instruments sound great together. Tonight, we have a program sharing a small sampling of the wonderful music that has been written for us. Some of it will be from our early start as a duo, some of it will be more recent stuff, and we even have some music that we've borrowed from other composers. Another person who also loves the sound of the oboe-bass duo is the New York-based composer Timothy Goplerud. He was the composer who wrote the piece you just heard that was called A Walk in the Park. Tim Goplerud is extremely important in oboe-bass history because he wrote the very first piece for us. And since then, he has written, I don't know, over 20 pieces for us, including the piece we're going to play next, which is called Vignettes from the Miraculous Journey of Edvard Tulane. This is a 3-movement piece based on a book, and the book is called The Miraculous Journey of Edvard Tulane, written by the Twin Cities author Kate DiCamillo. Edvard Tulane is a large rabbit doll with a porcelain face. He has many adventures through the book. He gets lost and found and lost and found. But at one point, he gets found by a little boy in Memphis who tap dances on the street for money. When he finds Edward Tulane, he thinks, wow, this is great. I can have someone dance with me, like a marionette dancing with him. But the little boy doesn't know that Edward Tulane's name is Edward Tulane. So he gives him a new name. He calls him Jangles. So the name of this first movement is called Jangles, Dances for Pennies by Tim Goplerud. In the next movement of this piece, Edward Tulane finds himself with a group of hobos. And his favorite time with the hobos is when they're just sitting around the campfire, telling the stories of their lives. It was a very warm and fuzzy moment for Edward Tulane. But of course, the hobos didn't know his name was Edward Tulane. So they named him Malone. So the second movement of this piece is called Malone's Hobo Song. At the end of the story, Edward Tulane is dirty and damaged and gets found by the owner of a toy repair shop. The owner cleans Edward Tulane, he repairs him, he has him good as new, and he puts him on his shelf in the toy shop. And Edward Tulane sits there, he thinks of his future, and he waits for redemption. So the last movement of this piece is called Down, But Not Out.
Hello, Rochester. We are OboeBass. My name is Rolf Erdahl, and I'm the bass player of the ensemble.
And I'm Canzone Vekione, the oboe player of the ensemble. We became a group because we're married, and we decided we wanted to play music together, but we saw very quickly there was basically no music written for oboe and bass to play together. So we started just playing pieces we knew, light classical pieces from various composers that we liked, and we arranged them for us to play. And we have a whole collection of music like that, and we love playing that music. But it wasn't until a friend of ours wrote us a piece just for us that we decided we should actually try to do OboeBass as a real thing, because the piece had a lot of substance, it was extremely fun to play, and people seemed to enjoy it. So that kind of started us on our journey of OboeBass.
And we know it's an unfamiliar ensemble, but we really don't know why. Because if you think of it, they're really two very complementary instruments. You have a high and a low, a woodwind and a string, and there's a lot of things you can do with each instrument that brings kind of a limitless variety of sounds we can make together. So we think it works great, and we hope our music convinces you of that as well.
We love playing all this music that's been written for us, and we've had quite a bit of music. We've created an entire repertoire of oboe-based music, and we love it. But we also find that we sort of got into the field of education, because while we were educating people about our music and our instruments, it just seemed natural to educate people about other things. And we started going to schools and talking to elementary kids about our instruments, about music, and we ended up creating a whole curriculum of programs for elementary school kids, which are great, and we love seeing the kids do it. We have residencies at elementary schools, and it's been a really rewarding thing. And while we were at these elementary schools, a lot of the parents and teachers said, "Oh, these are great programs. you should do them I'd go to a program like this. And it gave us the idea to create a whole series of programs likewise for adults. And so we have an entire series of programs for adults, which we do. Libraries, senior residences. In fact, here in Rochester, we have done our series of programs. I don't know, for how many residences?
About half a dozen.
About 5 or 6 residences. And it's a returning series. We come once a month for 7 months. And it's wonderful. We get to meet the people. We get to know Rochester better. And it's just been a wonderful experience bringing our education programs here. But we've also played here too, right?
Yeah, we had some concerts. We performed a couple times at RCTC, the Rochester Community Technical College. And we love coming down to Rochester. We like the restaurants, we like the people, and it's a thrill to be here at the Chateau Theatre. It's just been fun warming up in there. It is a gorgeous sound. You have a real gem here, and hope sometime you can enjoy it as a live audience for a live performance. But one thing that we talk about music, we didn't want to just play a collection of pieces for you, but we think one of the points of music is bringing people together. And after we've been apart for so long, it feels so good to come together, even if it's with a virtual audience. And so if you can hear the Beatles tune in your background, come together is kind of the theme of our concert, and bringing this music and together, bringing composers, performers, and audience together in music. We love playing all this music that has been written for us, but we also love playing arrangements of music from the past, and we most frequently do those in our educational programs. In a typical year, we will perform 100 to 200 educational programs, largely in elementary schools and senior residences. In fact, we've performed our series of 7 monthly programs at half a dozen senior residences in the Rochester area. So this kind of feels in a lot of ways like a second home for us coming down from the Twin Cities. One of the programs that is nearest and dearest to my heart is our program about Norway's most famous composer, Edvard Grieg. I, Rolf Erdahl, am 134% Norwegian. My father's mother was born in Norway. All my great-grandparents came from Norway. So it's a heritage that is really close and dear to my heart. And I've also studied pretty extensively about it. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on Edvard Grieg's music for strings, and for that I lived in Bergen, Norway, Grieg's hometown, for a couple of years, and there I also played in the Bergen Philharmonic Orchestra. So this just feels like second nature to me, and it's music that I don't think you have to be Norwegian to appreciate, because Edvard Grieg really captures some universals in his music. He started composing in the mid-1800s when there was a huge cultural renaissance in Norway, and this included visual arts and literature, and Edvard was especially inspired by the playwright Henrik Ibsen and his music for Peer Gynt. Edvard Grieg's music to the Peer Gynt suites, the Peer Gynt play by Henrik Ibsen, is some of the most beloved and beautiful classical music of all time. We're going to start off by playing Anitra's dance, and this is the dance of a lovely Arabian princess who is set to seduce Peer with her wiles and her dances. Anitra's dance from the incidental music to Peer Gynt. Edvard Grieg was very important in 19th century music as one of the leaders of the nationalist movement in music. And this was kind of a mixture of being inspired by the nature, the folk tales, everything about Norway. And those of you who have traveled to Norway know how beautiful it is. Edvard Grieg loved the beautiful nature of Norway and would hike for hours alone in the mountains that grew right out of his backyard home, from the home he grew up as a child. He was also kind of embarked on a lonely pioneering quest. No one had really made a career of basing their music on the folk idioms from their homeland until Edvard Grieg came along and showed it could be done. So we think this next piece captures both his love of nature and his pride in his homeland and the loneliness of his journey trying to create a new music. This is The Lonely Wanderer, originally from his lyric pieces for piano. The last piece we're going to play in this little set we have arranged from the music of Edvard Grieg is perhaps the most recognizable and beloved piece of classical music from all time, and that is In the Hall of the Mountain King, again from the incidental music to Peer Gynt. When Edvard finished this piece of music, he wrote a letter to his best friend, Franz Beyer, who was one of his hiking partners and kind of confidants throughout his life, and he said, "I just wrote a piece of music I can hardly bear to listen to. It absolutely reeks of cow pies, Norwegians too proud of themselves, and the twisted thoughts of trolls." we've really enjoyed working with Rochester Civic Music. First of all, because they were brave enough to take us on and open up a concert opportunity after the pandemic, and they've been tremendously helpful, and their promotional material has been really easy to work for. A lot of times when we perform, we find we have to do all the press releases and all the social media, and that was really all beautifully taken care of here, and it's really fun to be part of an existing series. So people who've queued into some of the other cool acts and artists that have performed at the Chateau Theatre, they know there's something here to come back for.
So one current project that we are working on in OboeBass is we're exploring the idea of Americana. As we explore, we realize that Americana means many things. Probably as many of you who are thinking about what Americana is, that's how many different answers we have for what it is. So, you know, it's probably because of our complicated nature, of the history of this country, as a mix of various people and various cultures. But one definition of Americana includes the idea of nostalgia for older times, simpler lives. And one composer that seems to embody this sentiment is the 19th century American composer, Stephen Foster. We have a beautiful arrangement of his song, Hard Times Come Again No More. This was arranged for us by Eric Hansen, who's the bass professor and one of the orchestra conductors at Brigham Young University. This song is timeless because there are always hard times for all of us. This is a song, but we will not be singing it. So instead, I'm just going to say the lyrics to one of the verses, so you can have the words, you know, floating around in your head when you hear the melodies. Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears, while we all sup sorrow with the poor. There's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more.
Thank you, Stephen Foster and Eric Hansen, for that beautiful arrangement of Hard Times Come Again No More. Stephen Foster is kind of the ultimate original American composer, born in America, but a lot of what makes American music American is that it came from somewhere else altogether. And we are richly blessed by the immigrants from all over who have brought their musical traditions and made them a part of the American melting pot or collage or whatever you want to call it. Our next piece is an example of that with music coming from Finland. The composer Julie Johnson grew up in Baudette, Minnesota, and she's an amazing flute player and composer and kind of crosses over between pop and classical styles more gracefully than just about anyone I know. But she loved the folk music of the Finns from that area of Minnesota, and she wrote this piece for us, the Koiviston Polska, or the Birch Grove Polska. The next piece we're going to play for you is a little bit different because it's going to be actually accompanied by some artwork. And this piece is called The Many Faces of Decos. Decos is a dear friend of ours and one of the most brilliant creative spirits we know. And you may not know his name, but I am almost 100% positive you know his images. He got his start as an ad man in kind of the crazy era of the Mad Men advertisers of the 50s. And he created such iconic images, or was behind the images of the Hamm's Beer Bear, the downy fabric softener bouncing on the sheets, and he's especially significant in the ad industry for his groundbreaking food photography for General Mills. Instead of these kind of placid, stale pictures of food that look like cardboard, he tried to capture the scent and smell of the food. So maybe you've seen this image of a chocolate chip cookie breaking apart, and it's so hot you can see the chocolate chips melting, and you can see the steam rising off it and just about taste the cookie. He's the one that created that kind of advertising image that's the standard for food photography for today. But he's also an amazing art photographer and painter and sculptor. And for his 90th birthday, the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, or MCAD, hosted a retrospective exhibition for his work. There were hundreds of works of Cy Decos. Now, if you know Cy, you know one of the things he loves most about art is that it brings people together. And his favorite thing is not kind of showing off what he does, but getting a whole bunch of people together involved in an artistic project. So to celebrate this commemorative retrospective exhibition, we got 6 composers together to create the community project of writing music to go along with the artworks. And each composer chose an artwork that really spoke to them. And we are going to share 3 of those works with you. And since spring is coming up, we're going to share the 3 artworks that had something to do with flowers. The first of these is from Cy's Off the Wall collection. Cy loves finding the extraordinary in ordinary objects, and for this, he chose the dandelion. But he didn't just take a picture of a dandelion. We have it right here on stage. He took a picture of 2-dimensional pictures of a dandelion and transformed it into a 3-dimensional sculpture, and you could have a whole field of dandelions sitting on the floor of the gallery. The Minnesota composer Steve Heitzig wrote the music to go along with this piece. Steve Heitzig is known for his evocations of the natural world. He uses found objects from nature to make sounds. He depicts nature, and he's a great ecologist and humanitarian in what he does, connecting people to nature. So he chose to write a piece for the dandelion. He entitled his piece, Pavan for a Little Dandelion, with the subtitle, There Are No Weeds. The second piece that we're going to be talking about is a self-portrait of Cy Decos that's made entirely of flowers. And for this, the composer Timothy Goplerud wrote a piece of music called Mr. Flowers. And in his words, Mr. Flowers follows its protagonist as he walks through a garden. One flower in particular attracts his interest. He plucks it, inhales deeply, savors its fragrance, and then slowly and blissfully exhales. Cy also created a stunning series of black and white photos of flowers that bloom in night. Flowers that most people don't know about, most photographers have overlooked, but he got these sumptuous images called night blooming. The composer Mary Ellen Childs was inspired by 2 of these pictures, beautiful photographs of the King of the Night and the Queen of the Night flowers. And when we performed this in the gallery, she actually infused the gallery with the scent of these flowers. These flowers are huge, about the size of your head, and they have the most exotic fragrance. Now, as we stroll through the gallery at the premiere, we would actually play a little walking tune or promenade, and here's what it sounds like. These are 3 simple notes, and the notes are C, E, D, and C, E, D are the initials of Cy Decos. The composer Timothy Goplerud thought it would be fun to set that as the theme for a tune, and he actually ends up the tune by assigning letter values to the note values so you can spell out Cy Decos's entire name. I think we have an image of what that looks like here. So you see the CED theme for his initials, and Carrie will now play the Cy Decos theme. So that gives you a little idea about how this piece works. And so we're going to play the 3 flower pieces from the many faces of Cy Decos. We're just getting back into concertizing again. It's been a year since we've done a live concert, really, but we're trying to get things lined up, and we have lots of projects we're working on. Also, we have some recording projects we're doing and some educational material things we're putting together. So we're keeping incredibly busy for musicians who haven't been able to perform live in public. You can follow us on our website, which is www.OboeBass.com. That's OboeBass, named after our instruments. And our Facebook handle is very similar, facebook.com/OboeBass. We're also on Twitter @OboeBassDuo. And we love to keep up with people and communicate back and forth and get feedback from our concerts and educational programs. So hope to connect with you that way and hope to connect with you live in concert soon.
So we would like to thank the City of Rochester and thank you for giving us the opportunity to play live from Med City. The last piece we're going to play actually celebrates my family's immigration to America. In the early 1900s, both of my grandparents arrived at Ellis Island from Italy and started new lives in this country in Newark, New Jersey. And their son, my father, was a very proud first-generation Italian-American. So OboeBass commissioned a piece of music in honor of my father by Adrian Mann, who's the principal bass and staff composer of the Fort Wayne Philharmonic in Indiana. Adrian created a medley of 5 different Italian songs, but these are not the stereotypical Italian songs you would think of, like O Sole Mio or Funiculi, Funicula, but rather he chose very traditional tunes that you would expect to see if you were in a small village and there was someone, an older person sitting in the corner humming one of these tunes, you know, maybe thinking of their earlier lives. The title of this piece is called Canzone Vekione. Which was a little bit surprising for me when I first saw the title of the piece because my father's name, Vekione, is in the title. But as I thought about it more, I thought maybe it was actually a wonderful title for this piece because in Italian, canzone means songs, and in Italian, Vekione means very old man. So Songs of a Very Old Man is a perfect title for this work. So with these 5 tunes that we're going to hear, 3 of them will be played on the English horn. You notice I switched instruments here. The English horn is just a big oboe, really, and has a lower, richer sound than the oboe. So 3 of them will be on the English horn, and the last 2 will be played on the oboe. The last song in Italian has the title Cantate con me, or Sing with Me. And this goes right along with our idea how music unifies everybody. I mean, there's nothing better than a group of people in a room together singing the same song. We are all unified. There's unanimity there, and music has this great power, and it's something we notice all the time, and we always love to celebrate that. So we invite you, I know you don't know the words, to sing with us, even in your hearts, in your virtual spaces. Sing with us on this last song that we'll play for you, Canzone Vekione by Adrian Mann.
Thank you.